boomer.
Right, I know, right? Says the old guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's going on, everybody? We are back once again with another week in the books. Conscious approach. We are in the building. My name is JV Wins, joined as usual by my boy Dogon SS. Before we get started with this week's video, man, like I always start off, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the channel so that you can become a member of the logical content community. We certainly appreciate you supporting and being a part of the channel. So if you like getting a dose of logical content on a weekly basis, soon up the ante to be more than just once per week basis, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, man, wherever you see this video. Hit that share button, man. Spread the word. Let everybody know what we got going on, man. We're building the community slowly but surely. We certainly appreciate everyone's support. And with that out of the way, we are going to go ahead and get into this week's commentary. I wanted to let this breathe for a week. So last week, obviously, there was a tragic incident in the hip hop world. 1/3 of the Migos Takeoff was tragically killed in what is being currently reported as an errant gunshot incident. That is what is being reported as of present. Whether any details come of that will change that prognosis, that's at least the way it's being reported currently, is that he was a victim of something accidental. Now, there's speculation as to whether that's actually the case, but that's what's being officially put on the record. Nevertheless, this happened a week ago today. So what was that? November the 1st. I thought about bringing this up for last week's video, but I was like, nah, because I ain't trying to get on here and just do the standard issue. Oh man, it sucks, tragedy, blah blah blah. I wanted to get some meat on the bone first, and we received some meat on the bone. So this gentleman that you see before you is a former record executive. His name is Robert Starbuck. Robert Starbuck, he's a former music label executive. He's no longer in the business, but upon seeing what happened with Takeoff, he posted this video, I believe, onto his Twitter. Of course, it got picked up everywhere else, but it was initially posted on his Twitter. It's about a 4-minute video in which he explains what's going on with the hip hop industry and what some things can be done to change what's going on in order to, in his opinion, tone down what's going on out here in these streets with these rappers getting gunned down. Obviously, if you follow this stuff, Takeoff ain't the first one. We had P&B Rock recently before him. We don't had guys like Nipsey Hussle going back a few years. XXX Tentacion, or however you pronounce that guy's name. You got Young Dolph. So you got a lot of these rappers just out here getting shot and killed over this music stuff. And so this guy right here, Robert Starbuck, went to his Twitter to talk about his experience and what actually goes on in the hip hop industry on the executive side that contributes to some of this stuff, and how your knowledge of this can help change things if you are willing to listen. So it's a 4.5-minute clip, but I do want to play the whole thing because he says a lot of good stuff in there, in my opinion. And so we might as well just let the whole thing ride out instead of trying to piece certain parts of it together. And then we'll talk about, or rather, we'll give our opinions on what he had to say afterwards.
Of seeing the rapper from Migos died, I just wanted to go ahead and make a video about something I have a unique experience. So I directed a bunch of rappers, people like Gucci Mane, Snoop Dogg, Lil Yachty, the list goes on and on. Okay. I learned a lot of things, and I have left the industry largely over my beliefs, but there is something I want to impart to people and hopefully, make some sort of change happen. So I have a challenge to rappers, and I know some of you still follow me. I know a bunch of celebrity blogs still follow me from trying to get niggas from music videos and things like that. So here's the truth. The truth is this. A bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives. The record executives that push for them to continue to make songs and create a culture that is obsessed with death, drugs, and sex. Period. The industry is obsessed with it. Those record executives, they're not dying because they don't push this culture on their own people. But they're encouraging you to push it on yours, and they're paying you handsomely to do it. The reality is, I know a lot of you are good people, you're family guys. You're not the image that you put out there to the world. Why? Why don't you be the example? Stand up, challenge you, be the example. Make music about the culture you want to see. Don't just get online today and talk about how, whenever a rapper makes it, his own people take him down. Don't just make those videos. Don't be sad. Don't rest in peace. None of that stuff. Be the change you want to see. Inspire it in your community. Reach out to other rappers and say, we have to stop. We're being used. You've been used for a long time. They create this paradigm to make you believe that you're so important and your celebrity status is worth so much, but in truth, you're a pawn in their game and you always have been. The government has wanted to hold down communities of people in different ways through different methods for a very long time. Their method in the Black community has been to use entertainment to create a culture obsessed with death, drugs, sex, and money, so that they could create a false paradigm of what happiness and what success really was. And in doing so, they created a world that also made people more dependent on government, and as a result, gave themselves more power. The record executives that push you to do this, to go and continue to profit off the backs of your work, they're in cahoots with the elite. They're in cahoots with the government. They want you to think you're important, but in truth, you're just doing their dirty work for them. So stop. They've empowered you in ways that are real. You have an audience. You have platforms. You have the ability to make change. So go against the grain together. They're more afraid of you all together standing up and creating a new culture that's built around family, faith, freedom, doing the right thing, valuing life, than they are of anything else. So I challenge you. Use your power to do the right things. If you continue to do the same thing you've done, more rappers like this are going to die. How many have to die before you change the culture? And let me tell you something else. There's a reason the record labels pay us more to do rap videos. They don't tell you that, do they? Do they tell you that they pay us more to do your videos? Because they do. They do it because they know it's more dangerous. They do it because they know it's more difficult, and they do it because, frankly, there's a lot of money laundering involved. Those labels wash a bunch of money through. We don't do it, but we know the labels are doing it 100%. Okay, they're then taking the money off the top end, and you see on your royalty check, oh, they spent $150,000 on this video. Did they? Because we didn't see $150,000. Okay, and to who? Their friend's company? A lot of times that's the case. Same thing with insurance companies. They charge us more to insure your videos. And it's because they know the culture that's been created. They know that the only possibility of a music video being shot up is on a rap video. And that's the truth. So change the culture. You have the power. Your people deserve it. You guys.
All right. So that was Robert Starbuck. Former record executive. I have to do a bit more investigating into whether he worked for a label or whether he was like an independent guy. I got to look that stuff up. Or maybe somebody who's watching this video can, enlighten us on that. I don't know too much about him outside of this and the fact that he used to do that for a living. So he said a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot to condense. You can take it whichever direction that you want. But what did you have to say about his commentary there?
I feel as though it was all factual. I didn't hear anything in there that I disagreed with. This is what I've been saying for decades now. As crazy as that sound. All right. Decades? 2. Yeah, 2 decades. That's qualified.
Oh, well, yeah, it's decades.
Yeah.
It's more than
So,
one. So yeah.
Yeah, so that qualifies. So yeah, I've been saying this for 20 years now. When it comes to hip hop, air quotes, right? So we discussed this before when I was saying that when hip hop turned into rap, and hip hop in its origin was only telling what was going on in the neighborhoods, or it was real poetry, and they were actually speaking about topics that made sense, and it was actually articulating life. Uh, when rap became a thing, it was articulating fantasy and people speaking about things they've never done before, that they never would do, and making it seem cool. And so when hip hop got co-opted by major record labels in the early 90s, they took it and they saw an opportunity there to do two things: A, make money, all right, and B, uh turn this genre into a self-destructive genre of music. And they push groups like NWA, and they push rappers that glorified selling drugs and shooting inwards, and that became the new trend in the early 90s. And we kept hearing this thing, at least in the late 90s, when I was starting to get tired of this stuff. I was hearing that, well, black people only want to hear this. Black people only want to hear this, blah, 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 blah. Well, who said that that's all we want to hear? Well, that's all they play on the radio. Who's putting it on the radio? So it's not black people putting it on the radio. So it was a situation where these major corporations decided uh, to push this type of agenda. And so, just like how old boy said, that the people that are pushing this stuff are also the record labels are also in bed with politicians. All right. Also in bed with politicians are people who own private prisons. And so when you have a prison industrial complex compiled with a music industry that promotes selling drugs, promotes killing people, all right, and promotes committing felonies and crimes and stealing and stuff, all right. Well, if you're doing all of those things, I'm pretty sure you'll go to prison. So are all the rappers going to prison? No, but a lot of them go in and out of it. And the record labels make sure that they pay the best attorneys to get those people out, just so they can make more and more goofy music for everybody to listen to. Some people should be under the jail and they still just keep getting out just to make more murder, murder, kill, kill, sell drugs music. Now, who's paying to get these people out? The record labels. And so they continue to push this fantasy music that has now turned into reality. And so when I was growing up, it was merely fantasy. I would speak for myself. I didn't think these guys were selling drugs. Well, how could you sell drugs and openly talk about it on a record and you're not going to jail? How could you talk about killing somebody and openly speak about it and not go to jail? But what ended up happening was not everybody had a decent enough filtration system. And once you start listening to this stuff enough, it starts to absorb into the masses' subconscious mind. And then they start acting out whatever they've been absorbing. So people actually go out there and start selling drugs and killing people. And so this is a phenomenon that has been going on for a while now. We're starting to see it come to a boil, in the sense that rappers are actually selling the drugs, rappers are actually killing people, and rappers are actually dying. So I do have more, but those are initial thoughts initially. So any thoughts on your side, bro?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you said there. So, yeah, I trace a lot of this back to when it ceased to be entertainment and actually started to become way of life. And I don't know how I've lost track of how many times the earliest that I can remember saying this was like, I don't know, 2015, 2016, something like that. when I started to express how uncomfortable I was becoming with the fact that hip hop was being made synonymous with Black culture. And, it created this paradigm in which it sandboxed Black people into this monolithic form of behavior, in which it's basically gleaned that if you're not acting in kind with these imageries that you see portrayed in this music form, then it somehow means that you're other than Black or not Black. Now, obviously, no one wants to feel as though they're being ostracized from their own community. So most people are going to acquiesce and do and say and behave in these various ways because they want to, quote, be a part of their own culture. And so, I started to notice this early, about a decade ago. You started to hear these things. You started to hear certain catchphrases being uttered, like "for the culture," and "we do this for the culture," or "this is for the culture," or "don't disrespect the culture," or "people are trying to get into the culture," or "but who are the gatekeepers for the culture?" That kind of stuff made me very uncomfortable because there's a whole world out here that's bigger than subgenres of music or even major genres of music. And by capitulating to a form of rhetoric which suggests that your way of life is tantamount to this music form, you're essentially boxing yourself in to one way of life. And it's a way of life that is self-destructive and, detrimental to your well-being and your health and the well-being and health of those around you and the people that you care about. And, this rap stuff is a part of why I've sort of relinquished this notion. At least I'll speak for myself. I've personally relinquished the notion that white supremacy is running rampant and that it's all about institutional racism. And that's what's keeping Black and brown people, Black people in particular, disenfranchised. I've kind of moved off of that stance. And the reason why I've moved off of that stance largely is because I, for the most part, seeing Black people being the arbiters of their own self-destruction. Now, the impetus of that very well could be a form of institutional racism. Like if you want to suggest that the various mechanisms that you referenced previously, the prison industrial complex, which I would agree is a form of institutional racism, in cahoots with certain other institutions like the music industry, is a part of a grander manifestation of institutional racism. I'll buy that completely. But at the end of the day, people need to be held responsible for their actions and behaviors. And like, call me cold and callous, but after a while, once you've seen enough of your own people getting killed or put in prison, at some point there needs to be an awakening that takes place, which says, I don't necessarily have to keep living like this, nor do I want to continue to live like this. So what are some things that I can do to kind of make the shift? But we've been sort of subdued into this place in modern society in which we don't even think about various ways that we can remove ourselves from certain, oppressive environments, because we actually have bought we bought into the hype. We believe we drink the Kool-Aid. Not all of us, but a large portion of us. We drink this Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid is a concoction which tells us this is what it means to adhere to your culture. This is what it means to stay true to who you are and who you're supposed to be. And so if there is a grand plan, as Robert Starbuck sort of intimated throughout his commentary, with these record executives and these people who are getting together to put this messaging of sex, drugs, and violence out there to sort of co-opt it with Black way of life, I'd say that it's working, and it's been working for a long time. But the thing about it is you can't depend on those who are benefiting from this dynamic to gain an awakening and decide that what they've been doing thus far is all the way wrong. That's never going to happen. They benefit from it too much, right? So at the end of the day, the responsibility and the onus is on us as people, as individuals, to gain the wherewithal to understand that there's better ways to go about doing this. Like, make no mistake about it. What happened to Takeoff, no different than what happens to the rest of these rappers who get shot and killed. there is an underlying understood undercurrent of black sensibilities and behaviors, which suggests that the only way for me to get by in this world is by resorting to selling drugs or shooting people who look like me, or by, getting countless women who I don't care about pregnant, on and on and on. And these various messages are subtly reinforced through the music. And so the more we listen to it, the more that we are conditioned to believe that this is quote unquote the culture. And so that to me is primarily the issue that I see at hand. You were 100% correct when you hit upon the filtration system. The problem is not everybody is equipped with a filtration system. Like people like you and I were equipped with a filtration system, and we were able to be exposed to this. And even then, like, we might not have gone all the way with emulating all of this stuff, but we were still subjected to certain aspects of it that influenced our own decision making and our own behavior. So if people like me and you, who came up in stable environments that lent themselves to us having a filtration system that allowed us to not sort of get so entrenched in this, we're still subjected to some of the questionable aspects of it. You can only imagine what people who are living in these environments, to whom this is their reality, they're not equipped with a filtration system. Of course, they're going to be out there in the streets running amok. I've just gotten to the point where I say personal responsibility has to be something that we more closely cling to. It's not going to be help from those who are the purveyors of this dynamic, it is going and we might get empathy or even sympathy from those who exist outside of the quote community, but people who aren't living this reality directly aren't going to be able to be a part of any actual integral change. It's going to have to be the people with the boots on the ground, people who claim that this is our culture. That's what's going to have to make the change. And these rappers out here dying and getting shot up, part of what's happening with that is this underlying current in which we have gained this understanding that this is what our culture is. And so a small part of it is these things are happening because there is a large percentage of us who believe that they're staying true to their culture by doing this stuff out here. It might sound plainly stated, but really that is what it is. It's no different than the way there are a lot of us who just accept prison sentences and jail time as a normal part of our reality. I said on a few videos ago, if I go to prison, I'm going to consider my life over. That would devastate me personally. I'm devastated. Would my life in effect be completely over, like practically? No, because I have a heart that's still beating, so I'm still out here living. But would I feel as though my life is over figuratively, metaphorically? I would. But you got a lot of guys out here. Well, not a lot of guys. You have a lot of us out here. Prison is just a bid. That's kind of how we see it. There's a desensitized aspect to it. We go in, we do our time, we come out, we go right back to doing the same thing. And if we get another bid, then we just do the time until we get out and take another stab at it. Same thing with the rest of these ills that sort of pertain mostly to us from a statistical standpoint. Single parenthood, low income, under education, all those dynamics. These are all dynamics that play themselves out in other communities, but it's more greatly exacerbated in black and brown communities because of low socioeconomic situations and standings. So I think what happened to this kid was tragic. Obviously, you don't want to see people dying, but this is a small part of the overall culture of blackness that we have adopted, which says, this is kind of what it means to stay true to who we are and what we do. It's in our music and it's in our streaming shows, and it will continue to persist until at the very least we decide that this is entertainment, but not actually who we are. And we don't have to be a monolith and adhere to it all the way 100%.
I hear you. And you said quite a bit there. I had a few things that I wanted to touch on. Don't know where to begin. So I'll start with saying Now you saying that, and I hear what you're coming from your angles. Uh, Something that you mentioned about, um, at what point are they going to get tired of this and change, whatever's going on. But we have to understand the power of the subconscious mind. So when you're dealing with humans, you're dealing with machines. And so when you deal with the subconscious mind, that is an automated device that when it's programmed, it does automation after that. And so when you're talking about music that people have been listening to since they were riding in the backseat of their mama's car because they put it on the radio all day long, even though that kid is less than a year old, when the song is saying, pop that vagina, you know, or whatever the hell else these songs is talking about, or they were talking about in the 90s. That kid brain understood that, even though it can't speak, its brain understood that. And it's hearing that stuff all the time. Then when it turns on the television for shows that were uh, for shows that are designated for the Black and brown communities, most of them are oriented around drugs, crime, jail. All right. And so that's another form of programming. Right. And then again, I don't know who owns these networks, but they don't look like the Black and brown people who are absorbing it. And so when these people are absorbing this stuff at a very young age, then they grow up and they do automation. And when they're out here doing their automation, it looks like it looks like the crime that they were absorbing from all of their stuff. Now, when you get a network called Black Entertainment Television, and the stuff that they were putting on TV, American Gangster, glorifying people who were lifelong criminals, people that were in and out of prison, who would sell drugs, murder people, mass murderers, and then glorify these people as if they're somebody that we should be idolizing. Coming out with movies where there's gangsters and, paid in full and all these other things that's supposed to be, hood classics. You know, that's another thing I can't stand, hood classics, you know. And so when we got these movies out here that are sinking into the subconscious minds of people, then they start acting things out. So even if you tell that person, hey man, consciously, this is wrong, consciously, they would agree. But unfortunately, people don't operate in their conscious mind. All right. The subconscious mind does 95% of the work. I wish you would tell your cells to be dividing right now and do osmosis, right? But that's not what your brain is. Your subconscious mind is handling that. And so people are in automation all the time. And so when they absorb this stuff, they act it out. When you talk about the way that we were raised, for instance, 95% of what we were absorbing was structure. And so even though we were watching that foolishness, like you said, there's still some residual stuff that we adopted. I'll speak for myself. I damn sure adopted stuff from those music videos, right? And those songs, right? But I also saw 95% of the stuff what my parents were doing, and it was none of that. So even though part of me was tempted to go out there and experience some of it, not all of it, but some of it, I still had a homeostasis that's programmed 95% of my subconscious. So I would revert back to what I was programmed to do from my primary caregivers. Now, if you talk about a situation where people were born and grew up in neighborhoods where their primary caregivers were already victimized by some type of system, right? And then, you know, mom's already strung out on crack, don't know the dad, primary caregiver steals from them, wild stuff. Then they hear all of these songs and stuff like this and all this rigmarole. Then they watch all this stuff on TV. Then they're 95% programmed to go to prison. All right. So there is a situation where you wish people could consciously hear whatever it is to change, But unfortunately, the subconscious mind controls a lot of that stuff. I don't believe in the word entertainment. To me, there is no such thing. There's only programming. And at whatever people are watching, somehow, some way, they have to manifest that through either thought or actual actions. So that's why people have to be mindful of whatever they choose to absorb on a daily basis. If you're listening to financial advice all day, you listen to the stock market all day, you listen to people who are always talking about money, 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 I guarantee you, you're going to be on a money path. If there's people out here that's always listening to crime, 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 murder, murder, kill, kill, or whatever, all right, they don't have to actually do those crimes, but they are definitely living in a much lower vibration than they would when it comes to something else. So there's people out here right now that are relatively broke compared to whatever they choose to be as a life goal. But for some reason, they can't seem to make enough money. But if you take a man who has enough subconscious programming, he's already made money before or what have you, you strip him bare, I can guarantee you that man will become richer before the person that has no understanding or no programming on how it is to make money. So just the same way we can say consciously, I wish they can get their act together. There's people who consciously wish they can make more money, but subconsciously they were programmed to be broke by the same television shows that told them to go out and spend money, the same television programs that told them to go run up their credit, same television programs that told them to go not be financially literate. So there's a whole bunch of campaigning going on across all groups of people. The group of people, the type of programming that the black and brown people are receiving are to go to prison and to just not be a productive group of people. Then there's other groups of people who get their own level of subconscious goofy programming. I was after the football game, I watched football. After the football game on Sunday, I'm at my grandma's house, and then some show comes on where Nick Cannon, and he's out here. I don't know if it's Masked Singer or whatever. They had Little Miss Piggy on there. They had people wearing costumes, and my dad pointed at the TV and said, "Look at this foolishness. What the hell is this? Look what they got people out here watching." And I said, "Man, I'm losing brain cells looking at this goofy stuff." But yet and still, there's people that's not in the black and brown community that's sitting there losing brain cells and not growing or developing. So there's a large systemic thing that's going on in the entertainment industry that's used to program everybody, black, brown, or indifferent. And so they're making sure that people stay cattle and people stay slaves. And so within the black community, our job and our duty is to go fill up the prisons, keep the prison industrial complex going, pumping and moving and staying alive, stay out of politics, stay out of everything else, go dribble a basketball, go throw a football. So there's a large systemic thing that is going on across all boards of people. I wish it was just a pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But if you were programmed to tie those bootstraps together so you trip and fall every 2 feet you walk, then you can't be surprised that these people can't get their act together. So I completely agree with Homeboy because he was actually behind the scenes. And that part where he was talking about that these people, these record executives are also, hanging out on a golf course with actual politicians. He didn't bring up the prison industrial complex, but I can pretty much damn well guarantee you because there's politicians who already invest in that kind of stuff in the first place. So you go out there and you vote for a politician who also has vested interests. You want your neighborhood to change, but then you vote for a politician who has vested interests in a prison industrial complex that's going to imprison your own children. Then you have to understand that there's a much bigger thing going on out here than just entertainment. So I agree with this. This Takeoff situation is the last domino, and everybody loves to look at the last domino, but nobody wants to see the first domino that was sitting there or the hand that pushed it. So this guy is acknowledging the first domino and the hands that are pushing it. So I agree with him wholeheartedly. I've been saying this for a very long time. And one of these days, through enough messages like this, maybe some people will take entertainment a lot more seriously because they can see how much it has actually programmed the masses, black, brown, or indifferent. So
I just think in a free society, that's just what you're going to get. You're going to get various, you're just going to get various mechanisms that are instituted to put the population in various levels. It's a caste system, like going back to the original societies, like the old English and European societies, where you had people who were at certain levels. You had, the royalty, you had the, sub royalty, you had the working class, and then you had the nobles, people on the streets. This is a modern manifestation of that. So again, I talk about the theory of casting the wide net. For me, it isn't about everybody waking up and understanding, because that's just not going to happen. In a free society where people, for the most part, have free will and have the option to expose themselves to whatever, what was the phrase that you used? To expose themselves to whatever form of entertainment, I guess, that they want. It's going to naturally yield a result in which you have people who are able to succeed and persevere through that, and then you have people who are sort of in the middle, and then you have people who are just victimized by it. And so it's just being able to cast a wide net to say, hey man, more people need to heed this, but also while at the same time understanding not everyone's going to heed it, because that's just the way of the world. Like, if this was a perfect world, everybody would get it and we wouldn't have this stuff going on, right? But I mean, the subconscious mind, as you said, is a powerful motivator, and you're going to have a large percentage of people who fall victim to it. You're going to have a percentage of people who are right around the middle who kind of fall victim to it, but also can be functional as contributors to society. And then you're going to have people who are able to be enlightened and live above it. And understand, the importance of being able to moderate whatever it is that they're exposed to. I just think that it's going to take generations of people who say this doesn't have to be my culture. Perhaps the generations who we have now perhaps may be lost, and it is what it is. I'm willing to entertain that notion. But moving into the future, I kind of feel like it starts with Black people in particular understanding that this music is not your culture. If you can get some of these newer generations to understand that this does not have to be my way of life, then at that point perhaps you'll start to see less of the power dynamics who are putting this stuff out here into the streets. There's going to be less people susceptible to that if you have people who, when they encounter that, understand that this is not my culture, that this is just entertainment. That's just my opinion on that. Nothing too deep beyond that, but otherwise I completely understand what you're saying, and it's obviously a nuanced conversation. You can dig deeper into it on many different levels, but I kind of feel like it starts with a baseline understanding of the fact that just because these people who make this music or who are in these shows look like you, it does not mean that they represent you. And I feel like for far too many of us, we kind of look at this stuff and we say that's a representation of me. And I think we say that because subconsciously we truly do believe it. So it starts with being able to catch people at a point in which their blank slates won't allow them to believe that that's a direct representation of them. Easier said than done, for sure. I'm not saying that that's something that we can just flip a switch on and it happens overnight, but I refuse to believe that this music is my culture, and I take the opportunity to express that every chance I get. And so more of that needs to take place, but I do think some of it can be turned around. But part of what he was speaking to is these record labels and these executives. It's easy for them to be able to execute this grand master plan because they know that a lot of us on the ground are gonna be accepting of it because we believe that it's a representation of us. If that element alone was absent from the equation, then there might be then the power of influence that it has may be less palpable. But otherwise, it is what it is. And what we're looking at is literally a statistical dynamic in which you're going to always have people who are subjected to this, who fall by the wayside. And so when it comes to that aspect, I just look to see less people statistically fall victim of it and, kind of fall by the wayside. But that's pretty much, the extent of what I had to say about it. I do concur with what both he and you were saying, though. I do think that it's an intentional strategy, but I'm also privy to that, and I have been privy to it because that kind of stuff has been going on since the beginning of time. Like, if you kind of do your research in the old civilizations, like they would put on those court jester shows in the town square to sort of keep people in a particular state of mind and keep them ignorant to what's going on in their own townships or whatever the case is, so that the ruling body can continue to do whatever they want to do. And
Right.
so this is just a modern example of that. It's always been going on.
And they
But
call
what
those
we're
people
seeing,
entertainers.
right, exactly. But what we're seeing in the modern day is this is literally resulting in it's resulting in an increased death rate that is endemic to one particular group of people more so than others, and it's becoming more and more dangerous because the plan just continues to work in spades, where a lot of us are just walking around really believing that this stuff is a representation of our reality. And until that part of it changes, I feel like we'll continue to see more of these rappers getting killed. And it'll be RIP, prayers up for his family. 2 days later, we'll be back to listening to the same stuff and doing the same thing. And they'll be back to making the same music. And that doesn't even speak to the fact that the popular the music that gets put out that's most popular, there's no balance to it because this is all you hear. That's a whole separate conversation. That's a component of this that we can get into that I won't. But be that as it may, I just think more of us need to kind of more of us need to look at this stuff and say this is not a representation of me. It's just a form of entertainment. And other groups of people, like you said, are victims to their own version of that, where it's feeding them a particular type of programming that makes them say, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. But those things don't, result, in my opinion, in such detrimental ramifications for communities and neighborhoods and people and death and jail and prison, more so than what it is that comes our way.
And
Not a fan of any of it, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at what we get exposed to as our representation, and it's resulting in death more than other forms of suggestive programming. So I think more messages like that need to be heard. And I'm not trying to poo-poo music. And see, that's the delicate balance that we try to strike, right? Because I can sit here and believe this while at the same time still valuing some of the artistic merit inherent in the music. So it's very much a nuanced conversation. And I'm not trying to say that rap and hip hop needs to go away, far from it. But there does need to be a separation of church and state, if you will, that we pay attention to more, where we say, cool, entertainment, whatever, there's value inherent in it artistically, but this doesn't represent me. Or, quite frankly, for that matter, nor does it represent any of the people who I know or any of my people at large.
I agree, and I'll just say this. I will say that all communities are under attack. And so I live in the Black community. So that's the one that resonates the most with me.
Right.
But
Right.
there's all communities are under attack with different forms of mind control. And so I don't believe in entertainment. There is no let me entertain this and then go about my business. Whatever you entertain yourself with, you have now gotten that level of programming. All right. It depends on how long and how you're watching it or what have you. So if you watch something and you only digest, hey, you are what you eat, right? So if you just go around and you're eating nothing but starch and crap and garbage or whatever, then you ain't nothing but a walking pile of starch or garbage or whatever, and then your body starts to break down. Then you try to figure out why. So that, but if you decide to eat some level of substance and then feed yourself with some real actual stuff, some tangible things that actually develop and grow into something, fruits and vegetables, then you can actually go out there and achieve something in real actual life and not sit in front of the box and entertain yourself further and go down some other type of rabbit hole. Now, again, the type of entertainment that the Black community is being subjected to, all right, that results in the prison, crime, welfare, and all kinds of garbage that all Black people said that they're over and they're tired of. Well, guess what? Your entertainment is further feeding you. So anything developed by 50 Cent, any type of anything that these other people out here creating that's always promoting gang culture, prison, and family members who do nothing but sell drugs, BET, any other network or any other type of program, P Valley, that's out here. Yeah, that's out here programming the masses on some goofy stuff, and they sit in there and they just calling it entertainment, but then try to figure out why they get in a mess every other day, and try to figure out why their cousins and stuff like that, and all of that is on their RIP shirts, and then they want to holler, rest in peace, Takeoff, and we got to stop this madness, and then turn around and then watch another show written and directed by 50 Cent. So that's what the Black community is dealing with. But like I said, other communities are also complaining from the mountaintops about what is coming out on television that's corrupting their children. And their children are out here being another degenerative form of themselves. And so you'll see other cultures and other societies around the world who don't have the same level of programming that we have, where their kids are having higher test scores and they're doing other things and achieving more intellectually than our children over here in the West. So the Western society has created this culture of nincompoops, and they're actually creating this whole culture, whether they're anybody. Now, so the Black community is getting theirs. Everybody else is getting their own version of it. So I agree with you, man. But one thing that I would say, at least me personally, the word entertainment is a 4-letter word to me, because I don't believe in it. I replace the word entertainment with programming. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, this is a very, like you said, this is a very nuanced conversation. I can go on for days about this, but kudos to Mr. What's his name again?
Starbuck.
Mr. Starbuck.
Robert Starbuck. Yeah.
Mr. Starbuck.
I can easily remember his last name because there is a character on Battlestar Galactica called Starbuck. So that's how I remember his name. But yeah, I hear all of that, man. It's just, we're all shepherds to the flock. I keep telling people it's a numbers game. The very last thing I'm gonna say, like, whenever I talk about issues that affect particular people or racism dynamics and things like that, it isn't that other communities don't deal with this, right? So it isn't that white people aren't also dealing with undereducation or underemployment or single parenthood. It's that it's a great, like, black and brown people disproportionately deal with it more because the numbers of black and brown people are less. So statistically, it's more endemic to those people. That's why it's more paramount for us to kind of pay attention to this stuff that's going on, because this stuff is a numbers game. It isn't about everybody getting it. It's about having enough people statistically who get it so that we have bites at the right types of apple, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I hear everything you're saying, man. Shouts out to Robert Starbuck. I thought it was a good message. I hope everybody, there's going to be a link, obviously, to his commentary in the description of this video for everybody to check that out. So you have your thing. To you, entertainment doesn't exist. To me, I'll say the same thing about fairness. To me, fairness doesn't exist. I think fairness was something that was concocted by people who sell you a dream when life is inherently unfair. So I believe fairness doesn't exist, and you believe entertainment doesn't exist. No. And I can't say I blame you. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on, man. That was a good conversation. I enjoyed that. So hopefully, some of y'all watching the channel might get some out of that video. Next up, we are going to move on to Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos. So This is interesting to me because rumor has it that Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos are quietly forming an alliance to pool resources together to potentially purchase the Washington Commanders, formerly the Washington football team, formerly the Washington Redskins. So Daniel Snyder is a shitty NFL owner. He's a bad guy. The NFL and the laws conducted an investigation. They had all kinds of creep stuff going on, sexual misconduct, power dynamics, all of that running rampant in that organization. So now Daniel Snyder is routinely under fire for being a derelict, bad NFL owner. And, the public pressure, the court of public opinion is that we want Daniel Snyder gone because he represents all the evil in the world, straight white male patriarchy, so on and so forth. So, Daniel Snyder is like the embodiment of that. And so there's increasing mounting public pressure for him to no longer own that franchise. And in the midst of that mounting pressure, it's being speculated that Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos, two guys who are officially in the $1 billion net worth club, are pulling resources together to purchase the team if it comes up for sale. And it is speculated that Daniel Snyder has gotten some sort of legal team together to explore options for putting the franchise up to sale. And supposedly he wants to sell it for $7 billion, which makes sense. That's what these franchises go for. So that wouldn't shock me. So I'm gonna go ahead and share this real quick so we can read this. This is from TMZ. It says Jay-Z, Jeff Bezos, secret dinner in LA, partnership cemented and bid to buy Commanders. A Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos partnership to buy the Washington Commanders seems to be full throttle because Monday night the two billionaires grabbed dinner in LA, breaking bread for more than 2 hours. The duo hit up horses near the Sunset Strip at around 7:30 p.m. Just a couple days after it was revealed they both had a mutual interest in putting in a bid for Daniel Snyder's Commanders. The restaurant is closed Monday, but the owner opened the doors just for them. TMZ Sports has learned Bezos stayed tableside until about 9:30, while Jay didn't leave until after midnight. Both men kept things low key as they entered and exited the restaurant. Jay was in a beanie and a hoodie, while Bezos was in casual polo. Lawrence Sanchez accompanied Jeff Bezos, while Corey Gamble appeared to be there alongside Hove, not sure why. You'll recall Snyder revealed last week he had hired Bank of America to explore a potential sale of his team. And almost immediately afterward, Bezos and Jay-Z expressed interest. The price tag won't be cheap. Snyder is looking for more than $7 billion for the organization. That's in the pocket change region for the two titans. The two titans, I'm assuming that they're referring to Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos. So there you got it. We got Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos, two financially powerful people in America, or really in the world, allegedly looking to pool resources together to own the Washington Commanders. So this was something that was trending last week. Do you have any thoughts on the potential for this particular situation going down?
It sounds fun. Because who likes the Snyder guy anyway? And who actually likes the name of Commanders anyway? I know I don't. So I think them buying the team would actually be pretty live. Why not? Feel like the sports world needs a bit of a shakeup.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can get fact checked on this, but Jay-Z will be, I guess, part owner, minority owner. I don't know how the term for that, but he'll be one of the only black owners of a professional football team. So I think that'll also be pretty live. So I think that once they buy the team, if and when they buy the team, I think the first order of business, they need to change the name. I cannot stand the name. I prefer the football team more than Commanders. So dealing with Jay-Z, it might be something dealing with cocaine. dealing with Bezos. It might be something dealing with packaging. So maybe the Washington Flying Bricks, the Washington I don't know, something. So
Pyrex box, the Washington Pyrex boxes.
the Washington Pirate boxes, right? Something. So because these two guys coming together, a bit of an odd couple, but when you're one of the fastest growing billionaires out there in Bezos, and one of the only black billionaires out there that everybody knows the name of, this is pretty spicy and this is pretty new age stuff. So I think that a lot of people will be in favor of it, myself included, because I don't like Mr. Snyder. And so yeah, I think this would be pretty live. What about you, bro? How do you feel?
Yeah, Bezos was the richest guy in the world until he had to pay $30 billion or something like that to his now ex-wife in a divorce settlement.
Ooh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So prior to that happening, he was the richest guy in the world. Now it's Musk. Now it's Elon Musk. Yeah, I have. So let me get what I don't like about it out of the way first. And it's a very minor thing. And this is just me and my personal sensibility, right? So I'm not trying to say I'm right or wrong with this. It's just how I feel. And this kind of ties into what we were just talking about. Like, I wish that it could be a black billionaire that wasn't a rapper. There's a part of me that feels that way. I'm just tired of these. Like, I'm tired of the best among us being rappers or being athletes. Like, I'm over that. I'm tired of it. And look, Jay-Z is my favorite rapper ever. So I'm conflicted when I say this. But that's just how I'm tired. I wish it could be somebody who's not a rapper. Honestly, I do. Because this is just going to embolden this hip hop is black culture undercurrent that we got going on. And man, we're going to be so happy and proud because Jay-Z is owning a professional sports franchise, much less the NFL, which for my money is the least inclusive of all of the major professional sports, maybe outside of hockey, but I don't know anything about hockey because I can't speak on that. So I can't speak on that. But I mean, hell, at the ownership level, I don't know which is less inclusive, baseball or the NFL. They're both way up there. For my money, the NFL is the least inclusive. And so it'll be good to get a black person up in there because there needs to be a black owner. But more, there's a part of me that's just like I'm tired of it always being a rapper. But it is what it is. Like, I can't think of any other black billionaires out there. Like, apparently,
there you go.
Well, I'll say so. Apparently, before the Denver Broncos were bought by the current group that was spearheaded by the Walmart people, one of the guys who was trying to get in on that was a black guy. I'm gonna look that up. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but there's a black billionaire who has a lot of money who was trying to get in on the Denver Broncos thing. But who has more money than Walmart? And so the Walton family, they were, they strong on that whole situation with their group, and they were able to put in a bid and buy the Broncos. I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to put his name in the description of this video. My apologies for not knowing it off the top of my head. But he was a guy, and I never heard of this guy. And I was like, who is this guy? And I looked him up, and he's big in the business world, and he's a black man, and he's self-made, and he did a lot for himself. But alas, he, couldn't, outlast the Waltons. So, but he's just one example, right? Otherwise, what we got is entertainers and athletes. And the only athletes who I know of who have that kind of liquid or any of those kinds of capital is like guys way, way, way up at the top, like LeBron. Or, I think Shaq is way up there too. And so it ain't even that many of those guys going around. So, we're just kind of lacking in terms of the amounts of us who can come to the table with the resources that we can put together to make something like this happen. Be that as it may, that's my initial problem with it, is that I just wish it wasn't a rapper. because I just got misgivings with that, with this whole, like, in my old age, man, I have really, like, started to think differently about this music stuff and these rappers and this hip hop stuff. I just got a funny feeling about it. I don't like it. I don't know what kind of productive message it sends. I know that makes me sound like I'm not pro black. So be it. It is what it is. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I don't know that, these rappers represent the best among us at times. Um, it is what it is, and Jay-Z is Jay-Z, and so he's kind of become his own entity, and he's not out here making songs on a daily basis anymore. At least talking about selling drugs to my brother or my uncle, or shooting up my neighborhoods or any of that kind of stuff. But there's plenty of other rappers who look up to him who are still doing that. And so I just kind of have mixed emotions when it comes to these rappers being put in these positions of influence. Be that as it may, I do think that for the most part, I'm in favor of it, and the reason why I'm in favor of it is because this is what I think is it's gonna take more black owners, in my opinion, in the professional football league in order for us to see more, black head coaches and black executives getting opportunities in these leagues. Like, whenever people get mad or upset because, white coaches are given the fast route to opportunities when it comes to head coaching opportunities or executive positions, I just sit back and I say, well, what do you expect? The people who own these organizations are all white. Like, you're dealing with a form of cultural homogenization at the very top that lends itself to perfectly making sense to me as to why you don't see more non-white people getting these positions of influence in these organizations. I'm not shocked by that. Y'all want to get mad and cry racism and cry, Rooney Rule this and racism that. Bro, these owners can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. It's their team. They own it. So if you want to see more black coaches and if you want to see more black executives in the NFL, you're going to need to see more black people owning teams, because then black people who own teams can hire whoever they want. And it stands to reason that statistically, more people who they want to have these jobs are going to be people who look like them. This is just kind of the way these things go. So I've never really complained whenever black coaches don't get opportunities, because I feel like it starts at the ownership level. And yeah, is there going to be a great influx of black people owning NFL teams? Hell no, of course not. If this situation pans out, we may not see another black person own an NFL team for another 300-400 years, for all I know. So this is just a drop in the damn bucket. But at least it's one franchise where we can count on some of this stuff that we claim to not like about the NFL reversing course. Because I can guarantee you one thing. I don't know too much about. Well, I know a lot about Jay-Z just from the music because I'm very familiar with the music. But the way he parades around, publicly these days with his pro-black stances, if he doesn't get in there, if this thing pans out and put more black people in positions of influence and leadership, he's going to look like a hypocrite himself. And I know he's not going to want to take that chance of being outed as a hypocrite. So he's going to do everything he can to make sure that he's, adhering to some of these causes and things that we claim to care about, particularly in the black community. So, by hook or by crook, more black head coaches, more black GMs, more black presidents and vice presidents of football operations, I think is a good thing. And so despite my mixed emotions with the fact that we always got to put rappers and people from these walks of life in these positions because they're just champions for our people, unfortunately, bigger picture tells me it can at least be a positive from the standpoint that it'll be more of us who are given advantageous opportunities. So, that was initially what I thought about that.
Right on. I think that when it comes to the NFL and its origins, okay, it was created from groups of people who wanted gambling in mind. This is it's it's a mob oriented and its origins type of construction. There was this book that this man wrote. I forgot the name of it, but he actually did research on um, the teams that were initially in the NFL and its connections with gambling. And so the spreads and all of that stuff. This is the NFL's a racket. All right. As much as I like watching football, it is a organized crime syndicate. So now they're not out here killing people; they're just robbing people blind every Sunday. All right. So as much as I like being entertained by it, uh, I do believe that the reason why you're not seeing certain people in certain positions is because they need to understand what the program is. Jay-Z, he's rubbed enough elbows. He's been in enough high enough rooms. I think he knows what the score is. I think he'll play ball. And so if he does end up putting people in positions of power within his organization, to me, it's just window dressing and it looks good. But at the end of the day, uh, you know, black people love themselves a token anything. So long as we got ourselves a token somewhere, just running around and having our one or whatever few representatives in somebody else's organizations, we're happy about it. All right. And so, like when Obama won in office, everybody was up in arms and ecstatic that we finally got a black man in the Oval Office. All right. Maybe finally this black man that's in the Oval Office will actually do something for black people. Right. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. All right. So when Jay-Z, if and when he actually gets this position, it'll be some very new age stuff. All right. He's going to make it seem very hip, very cool. All right. He's going to put some very hip and very cool stuff together. All right. I am in favor of the flying bricks. And so whatever he decides to put together, to me, it'll just be the token. He'll be the token black owner. It'll be the token black franchise. All right. If there is another one, fine, so be it. It's still token. And at the end of the day, I still think the NFL is a large crime syndicate that's robbing people every Sunday with their spreads. So, so whatever Jay-Z decides to do, because even if he decides to drop a verse tomorrow, because he doesn't have to make a verse every day, but if he decides to drop a verse tomorrow, he's going to have drug references in them. All right. So Jay-Z gets thrown in the same bucket as all of these other goofballs that decide to mumble nowadays. He's just an older version of it. So he was very articulate, very smart man, but he knows how to weasel his way into a lot of things. So why wouldn't he be able to weasel his way into the Washington Commanders? So Jay-Z is not to me, he's a good old boy, and this is a good old boy move. And I don't see why he wouldn't make it with the rest of the good old boys. I think he'll play ball, and I think that he'll be able to get his position at the top. So fly on, flying bricks. I hope you guys win a Super Bowl and have a black head coach and a black GM while you did it, and a black quarterback, to make it all look good. But yeah, I to me, at the end of the day, I'm with you. He's a rapper. He's an entertainer, otherwise a mind controller. So why wouldn't they put that guy in a position for everybody to idolize and to worship more? Instead of a black guy that we don't know the name of, who knows how to do square business apparently enough to be a good enough billionaire. So yeah, man, this is what it is. To me, it's hilarious. So I hope he does get it. So it could make other black people happy, to make it feels like they're getting a seat at some table that they don't own. So you didn't make the dish, you're just sitting at the table. You don't own the house, you're just sitting at the table. So have fun at that table. What I would like to see is what somebody, rapper or billionaire themselves, is to take their own endeavors into their own hands and create their own league. So we don't have to depend on these other billionaires who want to marginalize us and keep us out of their good old boy club. But that won't happen, right? Because in order to have that kind of money, you got to play ball. And as soon as you're not playing ball for whatever that may be, all right, well, then there goes your streamline to your billions. All right. So play ball, be a good old boy, and then you'll get a seat at the table, and you won't actually own that chair or that table you sitting at. So rock on, flying bricks. Go get him, Mr. Jay-Z and Bezos. I'm here for
it. Your cynicism is palpable. Yeah, I don't agree with all of that. I think that you can I think that you can work your way up to billions without being a quote unquote good old boy. I don't think that I don't think that in every case it's a guarantee.
No, I'm talking about with rappers. I'm talking about with rappers, and I'm talking about with Shaquille O'Neal and anybody else that you knew the name of. Those are good old boys. But the ones you don't know the name of, they do square business, and you don't know their names. So
no, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I also I don't know that I would disregard Jay-Z's business acumen totally, but you know, at the end of the day, for me, it might be a dog and pony show, but I don't care. All I care about is that there are more Black people being put in positions to become financially free. And if you're gonna have if everything that you said pans out, and you know it's everything that you just described, basically essentially what you amounted it to is just a dog and pony show. And that's fine. That's fine. But my thing is, if I have more Black people who are making six figures a year, to me, the world is a better place. The more Black people, the world to me is a better place when you have more Black people who are financially free and doing so without having to do it illegally. So the more you have, the more Black and brown, but particularly Black people that you have in that position, to me, the better. So even if it's a dog and pony show, the shit's got to start somewhere. So is ownership above all else the best possible outcome, and owning your own league and all of that good stuff? Sure, in a perfect world, that would be great. But right now, I just want to see more Black people becoming financially free, earning six-figure salaries and doing work that isn't tantamount, in my opinion, to modern day slavery. And so the more Black people that we have doing that, to me, that's all I'm asking for at this point. That's my baseline request. And I feel like this can be a mechanism for that to happen. All that other stuff is what it is. Because at this point, I don't even care about whether they want people, non-white. I don't even care about whether these owners want people in their club or not, or want us, whatever. All of that stuff is whatever. I don't even care. Is, who are they paying, and what do these people who they're paying look like? And if you get one of these guys who is a part of that, like Jay-Z, albeit, his history and what he stands for, or what he continues to do today, whatever the case may be, he's at least going to say, hey, Black man, you want to make $1 million a year? Here you go. I'm giving you this chance. And it ain't going to be laundering money. It ain't going to be flipping bricks. It ain't going to be
that pales in comparison for the amount of dudes that's in prison right now that are big Jay-Z fans, that listen to all of that goofiness that he's been
I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about them.
That's it. My thing is that Jay-Z ties into our previous discussion. So you may not
I get it.
You may not want to take him in, but he's been talking about cocaine and glorifying gangster stuff for the last 3 decades. And so Jay-Z is part of my problem, or anybody else like him. So that's why he is a Black billionaire, because he did his job and he does his thing, and he has the business acumen on top of that to make his way to the top. All right. So he has 3 decades of glorifying cocaine selling, glorifying everything that puts Black men in prison. But while he's in the studio doing none of that, so he can have that. And so if he wants to give a Black man $1 million, that pales into comparison to all the Black families that got ruined from all the Black men that went in jail who listened to his foolishness.
Right. Well, if we want to hold him accountable for that, then black people need to stand up and say you don't need to own this team. That
No,
ain't
you
never
can
gonna
own
happen.
you can own the
Well,
team.
I'm saying so that's never going to happen. Look, whether you like it or not, Jay-Z is considered by black people to be a hero.
And that's terrible.
Whether you like it or not. And I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. But what I'm saying is in the here and now for 2022, despite the dirt that can be levied at his feet, as well as the feet as a lot of other guys who are in his position, the fact remains that, as I said in the previous topic, it's a nuanced conversation. So both things can be true. What you said can be true, but also what I said can also be true, which is he's in this position now where he ain't doing that no more. He's not as responsible for that today as he was before. And if he's trying to give people more, if he's going to give more black people opportunities to be financially free, then I'm going to have to take the good with the bad, because as a part of my community, that's all that I can ask for at this point, because this is the bed that we've made for ourselves. And that's the cynicism. And that's the cynicism that's coming out in me. If this is where we are, where this is the champions of our people, this is the voice box for our people, right? These individuals, then we're going to have to, basically accept that they're going to be our modern day Robin Hoods, where now we see them as individuals who can steal from the rich to give to us, as metaphorically speaking, as the poor. I'm not saying that I like it, but the more, if I see one or two black people who have the chance to become financially free because of this, they don't bear any responsibility to Jay-Z's past. They're just people who are trying to make it in the world. So I think both things can be true. And I'm just going to have to accept that, because you can't undo the past. And this is where we are presently. So unless more of us decide we are not going to allow rappers to be our representation, this is what we're going to get. I mean,
he's not my
representation,
and that's what I'm saying.
I get it. It's not mine. It's not mine either. But we are two individuals who are basically at this point sitting in front of this camera trying to speak truth to power. But in according to mainstream media and according to social media troll world, and probably according to, and I'm being generous here, 65 to 70% of all of us, he is a representation of us. He's our culture, our representation. And so him being in that position is our culture being given an opportunity. And that rhetoric, that narrative is being reinforced by mainstream media, who is largely white people who are going to back that because they don't know any different. They don't know any better. So you have to take the good with the bad. It's about what is the victory inherent in this situation. For me personally, it's, black man, you just got a degree in actuarial science from this university. The Broncos want to hire you to run analytics. Good for you. Now you're making 90, 100K a year. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking at. And that's what I see as a possibility. So I just look, both of these things can be true. What you said is true, but I'm also looking at the good that can come from it. Because in 2022, that's the champions of black people is goddamn rappers. I don't like it. You don't like it. I don't think either of us are saying that it's the best thing in the world. And I started off what I said by saying, I don't like the fact that it always has to be a goddamn rapper. But be that as it may, I have to try and find the silver lining. It is what it is, man. I'm not the greatest fan of it. I'm not. But shit, you got Oprah, you got Jordan, you got Bob Johnson, you got Jay-Z. Who else you got? You got the guy who owns the Wendy's, who I can't think of his name off the top of my head either. The other guy who was in the running for the Broncos. I gotta know these names off the top of my head. I gotta do a little better. I'm slipping. But who else you got? And then after that's over, who do you got? Rappers, basketball players, and football players. And maybe some of these entertainers. I don't know. Go call Denzel. What's his net worth? Shit, I don't know. But this is what you got, bro. So, it is what it is. And maybe some of us can look at the situation as a glass half full type thing. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. It's not ideal. I get that it's not ideal, but I can guarantee you one thing: you are not going to hear a chorus of black people stepping up to the plate saying, keep Jay-Z from owning the Commanders. We're going to be cheering that shit on.
They worship him. So
Oh,
fly
exactly.
bricks, so fly bricks fly.
We worship all of these. Well, not we, but you know what I mean. Like we worship all of these people. That's what
Hey,
we do.
I'll be right there. I'll be right there with it all. Because again, I watch football, even though I said all of that stuff that I said, I watch football. And here's the reason why I watch football real quick. All right. And so even though it's gladiator goofy stuff where there's men that could be doing a lot more with their lives instead of destroying their brain cells. All right. But just like how you said, I like it when guys actually make some money and try to do something with their lives. All right. And so when I see a whole bunch of guys out there from my community that have opportunity out here to be financially empowered, and they can do so by throwing a football or dribbling a basketball. I do cheer for those guys. I cheer for their life. And so I enjoy watching them come out of the circumstances that they grew up in. And some of them grew up in wild neighborhoods where, of course, the only way they feel like they could get out is by throwing a football or shooting a basketball. And so I celebrate the dudes who actually made it out of that form of mind control. And while they out there doing their thing, I make sure that I say, hey man, even though you're in a realm that I don't necessarily agree with, you're still in an opportunity for you to save your own people and all this other good stuff. And the people that's next to you. All right. So I do watch football. That is my one guilty pleasure. All right. And it is what it is. But somebody else can say that is a goofy gladiator sport, which I tell myself on the other side, because we can be doing a lot more with ourselves and a lot more with our people instead of going around throwing a ball or catching a ball.
Yeah, sure.
But fly bricks fly. I'm here for it. They coming in on Prime, and it'll be all of that. So go Jay-Z, do your thing. I'm not hating, bro. So keep making your cocaine bars and keep doing your thing.
Yeah, you're just saying how you feel about it, man. And there's nothing wrong with that. I hear what you're saying. I'm just like, it is what it is, man. I like I'm just like whatever. We only got but so many people who have the capability to do this. And so what are you going to do? Like I mentioned, I don't even like many videos ago, I talked about how there's a lack of balance in terms of mainstream representation of like Black greatness, because I do believe that in the collective consciousness of the general masses, Black greatness is rapper athlete. And so, I wish that, and you made a joke because I brought up Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I was like, man, it would be great if more people were like, oh, Neil deGrasse Tyson is also Black representation. But you were like, we just gonna be looking at like, man, this goofy ass dude, Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? But Neil deGrasse Tyson ain't finna try and make a bid for the Denver Broncos or whomever else you can think of. And we do worship sports just like we worship these rappers and these athletes. So it's a cauldron of buffoonery. But I'm at the point where I'm just saying, within that cauldron of buffoonery, can I dip a spoon in there and get some kind of morsel that's not going to kill me? And for me, that morsel is 100,000 millionaire Black people. The more of them that we have out here, and they ain't getting it from the streets or anything like that, to me, the better. It is what it is, man. So good and bad, I have mixed emotions. I like it, but then I also don't like it. And I'm experienced that I experience that cognitive dissonance when it comes to this particular topic. So yeah, the Washington flying bricks. Oh man! All right, that's a yeah. Birdman's gonna be a minority owner too. Why not? Why not get Birdman in there? Just make it a cabal. Just make it a cabal of Black hip hop stars. Just go full throttle with it.
Yeah,
just get them all in there. Yeah, face tattoos, white bricks and all. Just get them all in there.
I'm here for it. It's all a sideshow to me.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
Oh boy! All right, man. Lastly, for this evening, we are going to get into comments that Nick Cannon made in reference to Kyrie Irving. So before we get started with this video, man, I did want to tell everybody, or rather remind everybody, that if you're watching this video, on the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Like the video, man. Share the video. We certainly appreciate the support. We certainly appreciate you supporting logical content. Hit that subscribe button so that you can get the notification whenever new content is published to the channel. We got a lot of new things coming down the pike, man, and we certainly appreciate everybody who watches our videos, man, because work goes into it. It's a labor of love, but we certainly appreciate when we can engage with folks and continue to grow the audience. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. We certainly appreciate that. Now, moving on. Kyrie Irving, obviously, he's been suspended by the Brooklyn Nets because he supported a video that reinforced anti-Semitic tropes. Not going to get into the nitty-gritty with that. If you need a refresher on what's going on there, you can go ahead and look that up. Kyrie Irving is not doing very well right now in terms of the court of public opinion. And what came out of Kyrie Irving's suspension is this list of demands that the Nets have that Kyrie Irving must capitulate to before he is reinstated back with the team. And a lot of people are expressing how they feel about these stipulations that the Brooklyn Nets have put out there. One of these individuals who expressed his opinion in that regard is Nick Cannon, who was on this podcast with this guy who actually comes from a Jewish background. So we will listen to Nick Cannon's opinion of what the Brooklyn Nets are trying to do with Kyrie Irving, and then we'll provide our opinions afterwards.
I can wholeheartedly say I know Kyrie Irving is not anti-Semitic.
When given the chance to say, are you anti-Semitic or not, he didn't say, no, I'm not anti-Semitic. At the press conference, tell us about that movie, White Did. He said, stop dehumanizing me. And the movie is saying white Jews invented the Holocaust and 6 million Jews didn't get killed. Okay, I know that isn't right. There's a gigantic historical record. Jewish people know when you dehumanize us this way, we know what's around it.
So in that same statement as those are the tropes that dehumanize Jewish people, the same buck breaking.
What's that? I don't really know what that means, to be perfectly honest.
The slave masters would bring the buck, the one that gets out of line. So all the other slaves would see lash after lash, show them the power to set an example. This is what you must do to fall in line. So when we see the 6 things that Kyrie must do to get his job back, right, that's dehumanizing.
All right, so no copyright strike, TMZ. I would certainly appreciate it. We're a mom and pop shop. TMZ usually plays ball. Like whenever I upload the video, it'll get like a little flag, but it doesn't affect the video or anything like that. So you know, TMZ plays ball. Shouts out to TMZ, man. We appreciate that. So yeah, Nick Cannon brought in, historical, factual information about buck breaking. I encourage people who are interested to look that up. That was a real thing. That Cannon is not making that up. Because a lot of people out here will think that people are making stuff up. He compared what Kyrie Irving is experiencing to 2 things, I think: buck breaking as well as tropes that reinforce, or rather tropes that hinder, black people in the way that Jewish people feel Kyrie Irving reinforced tropes that hinder Jewish people. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think that's what Nick Cannon was getting at. So you can take it whichever direction you want. You don't need to get into how you feel about what Kyrie Irving did, but rather what Nick Cannon thinks about what the Nets are doing with Kyrie. Or you can talk about whatever you want to talk about, bro. It's your world.
Well, I would just say that Nick Cannon had his own situation dealing with the Semitic community.
That is correct.
So he's on a podcast right now with a member of that community, and so he's just trying to have an intellectual conversation about the topics that Kyrie was talking about. Nick Cannon is entitled to his opinions, I would say. I wouldn't say he's either right or wrong. All I know is that he had his own thing where he had to have his own apology tour. and if he wanted to keep his programming and his income coming in. And so Kyrie has to go through his own apology tour as well. All right. Because the league isn't having it, the Nets aren't having it. And so yeah, you shouldn't go around talking about the Semitic community. So how do you feel about this? Sir?
Nick Cannon. And I was actually vehemently defended Nick Cannon a few years ago when he was going through that. A lot of that was extremely heavy-handed, in my opinion. And for the record, he was actually fired. It's just in retrospect, they were able to reconcile, and he was able to get his situation with Viacom back. But initially, when he said what he said, Viacom fired him, and that pissed me off because I thought that was extremely heavy-handed. We've lost the ability to understand the difference between reprehensible points of view and disagreeable points of view. We act like it's all lumped into the same boat. And at the most, I felt like all Nick Cannon did was express points of view that were disagreeable. But like you intimated, can't really go after the Semitic community, even if it is disagreeable, because there's going to be hell to pay. I think there's a slight difference in what Kyrie did with what Nick Cannon did. I'm not really going to get into that. But what I will say is, let me clear the air real quick on how I feel about Kyrie Irving so that people don't get it twisted. I'm not a fan of Kyrie Irving, but the reason why is because the reason why I'm not a fan of Kyrie Irving isn't because of the views that he expresses, but rather because of why he claims to be expressing them. I have an issue with his usage of words. And I've often said that I feel as though he's not as smart as he thinks he is. That's not to take anything away from his intelligence, but he strikes me as the type of person who from time to time says things that don't make sense, but in his mind, he thinks that they do. For example, you can't claim to be a voice for the voiceless, but then do something that said voiceless cannot replicate, because the ramifications, if replicated by said voiceless people, are going to be far different than the ramifications that you would incur for doing such things. So if you're going to be a voice for the voiceless, quote unquote, in my opinion, I think that you would have to employ practical uses of your views in such a way that could be replicated by voiceless people. But you can't really, you're not doing that when you're taking these weird stances on strikes and things of that nature, because voiceless people couldn't do that, or else much or less risk their livelihood. So stuff like that, I feel like he doesn't necessarily go about doing it in the most practical way that he can. And I'm a guy who's about practicality. I'm about implementing strategies that yield tangible results, and not just, talking and waxing poetically on things that don't actually have a practical application. So that's primarily the issue that I have with Kyrie Irving. And I think once again, he put his foot in his mouth with his latest incident. But where I will say that I agree with Nick Cannon is I do think that in the aftermath of a person expressing their views, what do you stand to gain from having them leap through what do you stand to gain from having them leap through hoops in order to secure reinstatement? So I'm gonna just read real quick here what some of this stuff looks like. So I'm reading an article from Fox Sports. So apparently the NFL Players Association is appealing the steps that the Nets are trying to put in place in order for Kyrie Irving to be brought back onto the team. And it says Irving was suspended for at least 5 games until he adequately came to terms with the harm he caused when he tweeted a link to a movie that spread anti-Semitic misinformation. According to The Athletic, the terms included an apology, a donation of the agreed-upon sum of $500,000 to organizations that fight hate, complete sensitivity training, complete anti-Semitic / anti-hate training,
Yes,
meet
yes.
with Anti-Defamation League and Jewish leaders in Brooklyn, and meet again with Nets officials, including team owner Joe Tsai. Now, that to me is ridiculous. That to me, I find to be ridiculous. Like, he's going to complete these various modes of training in order to
That's right.
do what? What do you think is going to be the result of him doing this? You think his heart's going to be changed and he's now going to have a different opinion?
I would hope so.
Well, that's the thing. That's not going to happen. And see, that's the trepidation that I have with this. And I know, right? This is Nuance Day on the Conscious Approach channel. This is Nuance Day. So while I disagree with what Kyrie Irving initially did, I feel as though these steps are, to bring it back to the last topic that we discussed with Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos, I think that this is a form of a dog and pony show. Like, he's going to complete these sensitivity trainings to satisfy whom? The public and their public. Like, people who believe that Kyrie Irving is inherently anti-Semitic are going to continue to believe that even if he goes through this training. There is no one who thinks that if there is no one who believes that he's anti-Semitic, they're now not going to believe that he's not, because he did all of this stuff. So it's a dog and pony show. What do you stand to gain practically from him doing this, other than to satisfy the court of public opinion, which isn't actually going to be satisfied? Because if you have one opinion about Kyrie before he did it or since he's done it, you're not going to suddenly have a different opinion after he's gone through these different trainings.
So why make him do it?
I know that's why I think it's ridiculous. It's a dog and pony show. You're making him do it because you think that as an organization you'll come out on the side of righteousness because you made him go through this stuff. And if he doesn't want to do it, then you have the grounds to like cut him or trade him or whatever the case may be, and you're not going to incur the wrath of the public vitriol because you stood firm and you stood your ground. To me, it's fake news. That's what I believe that this amounts to, is fake news. And I'm not a Kyrie Irving fan, but practically what is the yield of all of this training? And I have an issue with the word training anyway. Like, what are you going to train his behavior like you would train a German Shepherd? Like, what does that even mean that you're trained? Look, bro, seriously, okay, just read this out loud. What does anti-Semitic / anti-hate training mean? What does that mean?
Listen, you listen. So the Semitic community has had a history of people hating on them. There's all kinds of nasty conspiracies out there floating around on those people. And they can't, and every time people go around floating these nasty conspiracies, all right, then people want to get nasty with them. So he has to go to a training, all right, so he can understand the history of the Semitic people. So at that point, he doesn't spew any rhetoric, hateful rhetoric, out loud, so people can go out and actually start believing in these harmful conspiracies. So he does need a training to know how to talk in public.
I would agree with that.
That's
that
what the
I
training
agree
for.
with.
That's what the training for.
I hear that, but this makes it seem as though it is a form of training that's specific to anti-Semitism, when it kind of strikes me as he just needs sensitivity training, period. Which I would go so far as to admit, because like I said, I personally think that he puts his foot in his mouth far too often, in my opinion. And I think that he claims to be someone who speaks on behalf of his people, but he often does and behaves in ways that are counterproductive for his people, were they to emulate his behavior or any of his thought processes. I just look at the way that the world is, not the way that the world. I don't look at the world as it should be. I look at the world as it is, and in the world as it is, we are clickbaity. We're trollish, and we deal with information in its immediacy. And in its immediacy, no one's going to forgive Kyrie Irving, even if he goes to anti-Semitic anti-hate training. No one. No one. People who don't like Kyrie Irving because of what he did are going to continue to not like him even after he finishes training. Could you suggest that maybe he's not going to perhaps influence people in the future because the training will prevent him from putting his foot in his mouth anymore? I guess I can understand that. I can understand that logic, but I don't think that's the motivation behind the Nets making him do this. I think the motivation behind the Nets making him do this is to appease the general public who's very anti Kyrie Irving right now. I don't think it has anything to do with not influencing future generations of people who might believe in that stuff.
Well,
So, you know,
that's what the guy that was interviewing uh Nick Cannon said. He said that he was out here spewing this stuff that's this anti-Semitism, and you know how people act once they start hearing these anti-Semitic. Well, our people know what that leads to, and it leads to atrocities and all types of stuff. So there's no room to talk about the Semitic community that way. So if you do talk about them that way, well, you're going to have to know how to talk in public so you don't spew that hate anymore. All right. And on top of that, everybody, all right, has to witness you go through this humiliation.
Yeah.
And so that way, if you do decide to speak out against their community or any community for that matter, all right, then, all right, you will know that not only on top of losing your money, all right, you're going to get humiliated as well, and you have to apologize too. All right. So
Yeah.
Mr. Cannon here, he had his own faux pas with this stuff, and you can't go around speaking like that. All right, so he had to go through his own training. He had to sit at the feet of rabbis, and he had to learn. All right, and even this interview, I'm pretty sure a special phone call was made so he can sit here and give his take on things. All right, so Mr. Kyrie, all right, he's learning firsthand that hate speech is not allowed. And so the training, all right, it will run its course and it will work. And so when everybody's watching this guy go through this horse and pony show, as you call it, nobody else wants to go through that show. So why? So let's make an example out of this guy. All right, because this can't stand. So I'm all for, all right, the Brooklyn Nets doing this, and I'm gonna tell you why. All right, it's not to appease the people who don't like Kyrie Irving. It's to appease the people that don't like what Kyrie Irving said. And so once you do that, all right, you are now in the good graces of those people and anybody else that was offended by that.
Well, that's what I think is I was just going to say that's what I believe is the primary motivation behind this stuff. I don't think it has anything to do with Kyrie's need to undergo anti-Semitic training, and it has everything to do with the Nets being portrayed as an ally in the fight against anti-Semitism, which perhaps is the same thing, but I think it's more of a play for positive public appeal more so than it is an actual disciplinary tactic.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'm against anti-Semitism too. So don't go around spewing hate because it's not cool. So I would say that for sure. All right. So Kyrie is learning a valuable lesson here. I would say, and anybody else that I think so. I think so. If he apologized, I think he learned it. I think he
can apologize all day. Kyrie Irving has 80 million reasons why he's going to apologize.
Well, what I'm getting at is he's still going to be he's still going to be your version of Kyrie, the one you don't like. Oh, he's still going to do that. He's not going to do no more anti-Semitic rhetoric. That's what he did.
It's only a matter of time before we have the next Kyrie incident.
It's going to be another Kyrie incident, but it won't be a one that's dealing
It
with
won't be
anti-Semitic.
anti-Semitic. It
So
won't.
he learned
Yeah.
his lesson. There you go. He learned his lesson. He's not going to stop being Kyrie. He's just going to stop being anti-Semitic Kyrie. Lesson learned. Same thing here. Same thing here for Mr. Cannon, who was at the feet of rabbis. You know, he's still plugging these women. He's still wilding out. He's still doing his thing. But one thing he's not is anti-Semitic.
I hear that. Yeah. Did you do that on? Did you mean to do that?
What's that?
He's still out here wilding out.
Yeah,
was that
bro,
like an intended pun?
Come on, man. We out here. And so this is what happens when you go around speaking hate speech on the internet. You're going to get course corrected. You're going to have to apologize, rightfully so, and you're going to have to go on a I'm sorry tour. So Kyrie is on his I'm sorry tour, and he's the guy walking through the village as the man of shame. Yeah, look at this guy. Everybody, whoa, and he's the man of shame. And so nobody else is going to come out of their mouth sideways like that, because it is hateful. So lesson learned, Mr. Kyrie Irving. So just post some more flat earth stuff. That you don't have to apologize for that.
No, that's true. Yeah. And I hate what he did, but again, like I'm not a Kyrie guy. I'm on record. I'm not. I haven't been ever since he demanded to be traded from Cleveland all those years ago, and he went on First Take and just refused to answer questions.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, well then why did you come on this show? He was being asked legitimate questions, and he was just giving the most ridiculous non-answers. He was just responding in a way that said, I'm smarter than you. And if you don't get why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm not going to bother explaining my brilliance to you. And I hate people who do that shit. I really do. I hate people who do that. And then he just continued it with the bubble stuff and the vaccine and the voice for voiceless and the Capitol riot stuff and not playing. And I'm just not a Kyrie guy. He's not as smart as he thinks he is. And I hate what he did here with this. And I've had people who've come at me defending him because they look at it as, the media trying to get another black man. Because you know how a lot of these ignorant black people want to make everything about race instead of it about accountability. And so I got to check some of those people like, no, what he did was actually wrong. If you think he's in the right, then you just don't have all the information. And you're coming into this situation with your own preconceived bias about what you think is going on between the media and black people and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I just question the practicality of some of this training stuff. Like, I just think that it's a play for public opinion. I don't think that it's meant to do what the language is suggesting that is intended, which is training, which the word training insinuates to correct behavior.
Right.
Maybe it'll correct his behavior, but I don't think it's going to correct any of his ideology. No. And as long as his weirdo ideology is still there, the next thing is going to happen that's going to create the next incident for Kyrie.
He can be as weird as he wants behind closed doors. You better not come out and say no more anti-Semitic stuff publicly, though.
Right.
And the training worked like a charm. So that's the purpose of the training. What you think they're going to say in the papers? You think that they're going to say that we don't want you to publicly say stuff about Semitic people anymore? That's not what they're going to tell you. So they're going to cloak it in this thing called blah, 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 blah training. But in that blah, 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 blah training, hey, this is what you don't say out loud. Now, you can feel like this behind closed doors. Talk about flat earth. We don't care. Talk about Black Lives Matter. We don't care. Talk about this and this and this and that. We don't care. Post a link. You're in trouble. You can't do that one. You can do anything else you want to do. Don't do that. Kyrie has learned not to do that. Mr. Wildin' Out. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can say this. You can say this. Don't say that. Everything else you can say. So sit at feet of rabbis, apologize, and go on your apology tours.
Right.
That's
Well,
all this is. And anybody that's watching, just like Mr. Cannon says, all right, he used the term buck breaking. I just used the term, shameful person walking down the street. Same analogy. You don't want to be that guy that's getting humiliated like that. All right. And if you have some type of bankroll in your pocket, they're going to tax it up a little bit.
well, they just
You
gonna
don't want
outright take it away.
so
Yeah.
even if you do have $80 million, all right, you did not intend to give up this much of it towards something that didn't go towards your own personal investments. So they're going to make sure, all right, Nike and stuff and all of these other people, all right, your name will get dragged through the mud. So don't talk about it. You're talking hate speech. So talk your conspiracy stuff, talk your tinfoil hat, talk anything you want, talk Black Power. Hell, we don't care. But don't talk about this. And so lesson learned from not Kanye. Lesson learned from Mr. Kyrie. Lesson learned from Mr. Cannons. And lesson learned from anybody else out there that decides to target the Semitic community because, well, you're going to find out one way or another, right, that hate speech is not allowed. And I agree. So, Kyrie, hopefully you take this one on the chin, big dog, and understand that hate speech is not cool. And so it is what it is, man. Wild times we're living in. Wild times.
Yeah, whatever. No, I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. Wild times indeed. You think after Tiger Woods had to undergo sexual addiction training that he liked sex any less than he did when he went in there? Of course not.
Who made him do
ridiculous.
that?
He
His
had
lawyer?
to do it as he had to. No, he did it to kind of, it was just to make it look like he's treating a problem that's not actually a problem.
I know, but who made him do it?
I don't know that anyone made him do it. He did it because it was being advised that he do that, undergo
Right,
that
for the court of public perception, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's
I hear that, but my point is it didn't correct any of his behavior. I don't
no,
think.
just
I think
do your sick stuff behind closed doors.
Yeah, I know. I just would rather the problem get nipped in the bud instead of well, just don't do it publicly. But I hear what you're saying. I'm just on countdown for the next Kyrie incident because it's gonna happen because
Kyrie,
that's who he is.
I hope Kyrie just stay out of the way, or
he doesn't know how to do that. He views himself as a messiah. Messiahs don't stay out of the way; they jump directly into the fray.
Well, if he is a messiah, save us all, Mr. Kyrie. All right.
No. He ain't saving me. I'm saving myself. But it is what it is, man. Interesting conversation. I'm kind of with Nick Cannon on that one. And so in a roundabout way, I've had to reluctantly somewhat defend Kyrie Irving in this regard, but all the way, I still think that he's a buffoon. And I think he deserves everything that's coming his way. I just don't think that you can train the untrainable. That's just how I feel about that.
And I think that, and I don't think he's being. I told you what I think that training means. And so,
yeah, I hear that, but I just don't know what the value. There will be another thing that he says that will piss people off, and he'll have to undergo training of that variety. So he's just going to continue to train and train and train and train. If that's the case. Because he doesn't know how to not be this way. This is who he is. And there's a record of events which suggests that he is a common denominator in all these types of situations.
This man did not play for half the season because he didn't want to get vaccinated. He ain't have to apologize for that. This man talking about all types of other stuff. He ain't have to apologize for that. He ain't have to go through a 6-step process to apologize for that. But you post a link and you got to apologize for that. So it's not about, they don't care what he thinks. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He can sit out for half a season. It's not about that. It's about what he said. He's speaking dangerous rhetoric. And you better apologize. And you have to go on this tour to apologize for your dangerous rhetoric. And if he didn't learn through this training, hopefully he did, that you better not go out around and speak this dangerous rhetoric, lest you go through another humiliation ritual. And so this situation here, hopefully he did learn not to speak about the Semitic community again. But he can talk all his goofy stuff all he wants, and they don't care if he talk that if he does, because none of that harms anybody. He could just talk it. But this over here, it harms the Semitic community, and they can't have that. Rightfully so.
Yeah, and I believe that he isn't learning and that he will do something harmful because he just does not care, and he believes he's on the side of righteousness. So I am looking at a trending pattern of behavior with him. It may have started as innocuous where he's spreading his own weirdo stuff, but generally stuff like this progresses. Kanye didn't always start off saying off the wall stuff. It's gotten progressively worse over time. And so I don't think Kyrie is exempt from that. And I think that he's going to say something again that's going to maybe not have the same effect, but it'll be similar. And I guess he'll have to do training for that too. So
hate speech is not cool, y'all. Don't do it.
Yeah. All right. All good with that. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out for this week. Good stuff. JV Wins Dogon SS. That'll do it for this week's live stream, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be on the lookout, man. There's a lot of good stuff coming down the pike for the channel. But like I always say when we close out, man, subscribe to the channel so that you can get the notification for all content that gets published to the channel. Like this video if you appreciated the commentary. We certainly appreciate it. Follow Conscious Approach on Instagram at ConApproach, ConApproach. Conscious Approach is coming soon on to TikTok. We'll be posting clips on that as well, so be on the lookout for that. You can follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS, and all content, not all content, but all videos also get published to the Conscious Approach meta page. So if you're watching this on the meta page, like the button, follow the page, share the video. Did I say like the button? I feel like I just said like the button.
Hell yeah, like it again.
Click
on the like.
Click on the like button and share the video and like the page. We certainly appreciate that. Check out the website as well, consciousapproach.com. Full content library is housed there. Keep on supporting that logical content. And if you find yourself in fire because you said something that has a lot of people mad, just understand the value of the training so that you don't come out on the other end of the training still thinking that what you think is cool. It's okay to undergo a paradigm shift and realize that what you were thinking previously may not have been all the way right. So that's my ending TED talk there. But otherwise, appreciate you for support logical content, and we'll catch you on the next video.
For sure. And the name is Dogon SS. You can catch me on Instagram at Dogon_SS, YouTube at Dogon SS, and on DraftKings. Holla at me, Dogon_SS. And like I always say, guys, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it play, keep it even kill. Don't let anybody get you off your pivot, man. All right. And so, yeah, guys, until next time. Hit the like, hit subscribe, like we already said. Hit that bell for the notifications, and we're out. Go Canes!
Yes, sir, man. We can't wait to watch the first game of the Washington Flying Bricks.
Bricks.
I can't wait for that. Shouts out to the future black president of football operations on that squad. Future black head coach. Future black GM. Future black vice president of football operations. I can't wait, man. Washington Flying Bricks. And until next time, we signing off on this video. We'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.